Friends, I've always felt that should a zombie apocalypse break out, I would be kind of screwed because I actually don't know how to do very much in this world. I know how to lead a meditation, and I know how to walk people through their difficult emotions and find clarity in the midst of madness, in the midst of trauma, in the midst of disaster. I know how to do that much. And so my only hope, honestly, in a zombie apocalypse would be to find a community, a compound, a commune where those necessary skills were valued enough that people would be willing to share their food and their protection with me. And I say that because here we are in the midst of a zombie apocalypse, really. As I'm recording this, day two of an ugly new reality, you can see the sleeplessness on my face. You can see the worry, frankly, in my eyes. And I know, I know that within this, our emotions are of pivotal importance. Yes, there are concrete realities, emergent realities unfolding right now that are very, very important, external realities. And at the same time, we have to understand that the human psyche is literally the filter through which everything that we perceive passes through on its way to becoming a story that lives inside of us. And the human psyche is the filter that our energy passes through as it comes up and out and turns into thoughts, words, and behaviors. And so, what's going on in that psyche, the contents of our psyches, which emotions tend to be the most extreme and intense things that go on in our psyches. Sometimes our thoughts that are definitely connected to our emotions, right? They're of pivotal importance because how are we to know how to act? How are we to gauge our decision making? How do we know what's important and what to prioritize in any given moment, given that so much is going on? And so, having emotional intelligence and emotional resilience, and I will get to this in a moment, you might not agree with this at face value, open heartedness within all of this, I think, I'm convinced, frankly, is going to be of pivotal importance. It's going to be crucial as we walk through this dark night together. And I am going to be here to hold these awarenesses for us in hopes that this even just helps one person. So let me back up for just a moment in case you and I are just meeting for the very first time. My name is Ralph De La Rosa. I am a trauma therapist in private practice, and I've been so for 10 years. I have written three books about Buddhist mindfulness meditation in tandem with a trauma focused psychological modality called internal family systems therapy. Um, and I've been working with trauma survivors in the realm of deep and difficult emotions the whole time that Trump has been at the forefront of media and affecting our lives in such a direct way. I'm also a PTSD, multiple CPTSDs survivor. I'm an ex-heroin addict. I come from really the gutter and a long time in my life that I thought I really belonged there. And I do not know how I got so fortunate as to hold the seat that I hold now, but here we are. Here we are. And so just in case that lends itself in some productive way, conducive way, to what I'm about to say. The first thing I want to say is right now, especially, we need to have an awareness that because things are so new and they're so extreme and intense, and for many of us, for me, unexpected, frankly, I didn't think that this was going to happen. I'm questioning my sense of optimism now. There's no way that we are in touch with the full scale of emotions that we are having about this situation. That's not how grief and trauma works. I feel things for a living, and I'm not even aware of how many emotions are in the background of my consciousness in what it's sometimes called the unconscious mind. We know that we can hold quite a lot in the background, and we are sometimes surprised by the way emotions pop out as. So we've all had experiences of like, I didn't realize I was angry about that till like 5 days later. right? We're in that kind of situation. And one thing that we know for sure is that these are the exact kind of emotions that pop out in surprising, sometimes very twisted and distorted ways, and sometimes in dangerous ways that can ruin relationships or even ruin lives. If you think about, like, one example is a moment of road rage. Like in a split second, somebody could have an anger that pops out that wasn't there, a few seconds ago, and kill lots of people in one moment of road rage, right? That's possible. And so these are the exact kind of emotions that have this nature to them. And I don't want you to be worried about that. I want us to just know that this is the case and to be smart about who and what we spend our time around and what we spend our time doing. Be aware that if you meet with an activating force, some things might pop out of you, and it might not just be big emotions, but big behaviors as well. So be thoughtful around, who you're hanging with and what you're getting up to, the things that you're putting in your body that might lower your inhibitions as well. Could be the match that lights the fire. Just be smart about that. That's all. Um, I also want to get to this open-hearted piece because honestly, I think that this is the answer. I think that this is the answer. We cannot afford to shut down right now. This moment absolutely needs us to be wakeful and clear and restored without our emotions running the show 24/7. One thing that's true about emotions also is they consume a lot of energy for your nervous system and your brain. In anger, cortisol, like stress, worry, these sorts of emotions are deeply, cortisol is one of the most toxic substances that you can have in your body. A little bit is okay, but a lot and for prolonged periods, you're looking at all kinds of risk factors for physical diseases, for all kinds of mental ailments, and even a shorter lifespan if you hold cortisol in your body in mass amounts for long enough. So, our emotional intelligence, um, learning how to step back from our emotions as well is going to be of pivotal importance here so that we can be well. So that we can be well. And what that means is we can't shut down. We can't shut down. My first meditation teacher, Vinny Ferraro, I'm going to paraphrase something he said in a talk once that I transcribed and put in my new book, Outshining Trauma. Shameless fucking plug. Why did I even say that? But um, he says, at one time in his life, he put armor around his heart because he didn't know that his heart was the biggest gift that he could possibly give the world. And he thought, the conventional wisdom of lock that thing up, hold your feelings at bay, don't let it be seen, made sense. And, instinctively, we're hardwired to protect against our vulnerability or protect from big emotions coming up in some way. That's why we engage in so much repression, which is, again, dangerous. But the thing with that is when we shut down the heart because a trauma has visited us, because a difficulty has arisen, because something big has hit the fan. When we shut down our hearts, the trauma is still in there with us. We have just locked ourselves in with the difficulty, with the terrible situation. That's no kind of response to trauma. He says, I can't think of a worse response. And then he goes on to say, but the good news is if I'm the one who closed the door, I'm the one who holds the key to open it back up. And so when I say open-heartedness is the way forward, I want to be very, very clear that I am not talking about some mamby-pamby Pollyanna, flimsy open-heartedness. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, love is not just some emotional bosh. I'm talking about the force that holds the keys to the kingdom, you know? When I say open-heartedness right now, I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about compassion for others, especially those who are more vulnerable than us in this, and compassion for ourselves, because this is a struggle and this sucks. And to behold our own struggle, our own pain, and that of others is the kind of open-heartedness that we need. And yes, that can look like tenderness, but understand that compassion has 1,000 faces. Compassion might look like tenderness and just like holding space for somebody and empathizing with what they've been going through. We need to be doing that for each other in a big way right now, just listening to each other, not thinking about what to say next so much, right? But I'm talking about the kind of compassion that can also be fierce and fiery, the kind of compassion that can say on the behalf of the oppressed, hell no. The kind of compassion that is willing to speak truth to power, a kind of compassion that is decisive and active, that is active, not just felt in the body, but felt in the body as a precursor to behavior and activity that can help. So we need compassion and open heartedness for ourselves and others. And then we also need compassion in action. That is the solution. That is the solution. We talk about systemic oppression. We talk about institutionalized racism, institutionalized transphobia, institutionalized misogyny. The antidote to that at a societal, institutional level would be systemic compassion. Our governing bodies having this open-hearted energy to them and decisions being made from those places, legislation being formulated from that kind of energy. That is actually the revolution. That is actually the thing that we all really want to see avail itself. And so right now in this moment that we have never been further away from that, at least in America, we start inside and then we let it spread to the community around us. Right. Speaking of that, a few things have just become way more important in your life right now. Whether you like it or not, these things have become so pivotally important in your life. And the first one is community. The second one is art. And the third one is wellness. And I've been harping a little bit on emotional wellness and the nervous system here so far, but community, and not just like the folks you hang out with and have a good time, purposeful community. We are going to need each other. We are going to need people who have our backs, and we are only going to feel good, frankly, is if we have other people's backs too. Right? So purposeful community, hanging out with purposeful people, people who are interested in growth, people who get this piece on how important compassion is. It really is the solution. And activated people who are working on solutions in the world. I really recommend that I think right now is a grieving moment. Right now is a time to feel the blow and to maybe wild out a bit, scream at the sky, shake your fists at whoever. But when we're done with that, get on mailing lists. In fact, do that now while you're still absorbing the blow. Get on mailing lists of Indivisible or whoever else calls to you, of folks that are going to be working to counteract the impact of this. One of the other things about our emotions and activist culture, quite frankly, is, screaming in the streets actually serves a very adaptive purpose. When we witness wrongs happening in society, we cannot just sit there and let it stew in our nervous systems. Again, very bad for us. We've got to do something with it, and something that is in the direction of the solution, and have our emotions aimed at the appropriate party as well. Otherwise, we'll displace them onto the other people around us that don't deserve that. So when we feel things, we've got to act on it. In this context specifically, in the socio-political context, you will not feel better if you do not act. You will create more harm and confusion if we do not act. And so get in touch with these orgs. And also, the side benefit of that is more places where you can experience belonging and purposeful belonging with others right now. Our three fundamental drives as human beings, our three fundamental needs at the level of our neurology are safety, feel good rewards, which can look like learning and growth, generosity as well gives us a big reward. We're kind to each other. We're always the first ones that cheer up. And then belonging is our third fundamental need that correlates to the frontal cortex of the brain. We won't get into that. But those three things are your fundamental needs: to be safe, to provide safety for others, to be in an atmosphere of growth and learning and progress and change, and not just wasting our time with petty pleasures, although those have tremendous value too. Do not get me wrong. We absolutely need pleasure and we need hedonic stuff. I'm not on some religious tangent right now, but belonging. And the factor of belonging actually has all three in it. When we are in community with folks where we, belong, we already feel safe. And we're already in an atmosphere of goodness, of feeling good, and sensing growth, progress, evolution is available. These three things are very important. So, art, art and music just became way more important than they already were. Art and music is not only, and art, music, writing, dance, any form of creativity gives us a place to channel what's going on. And I don't care if you are bad at creativity. Lots of people believe that about themselves. You create your life every day. You are actually very good at creativity, but go watercolor, journal, make things right now. And also lean into the forms of art that you resonate with and consume those forms of art, right? Angela Davis very smartly pointed out in an interview. I'll just read this quote. She says two quotes actually from Angela Davis. One, art teaches us how to feel free even as we live in the conditions of unfreedom. She goes on to point out that movements are driven by music and visual art. It is often just taken as entertainment, but art can produce knowledge. Knowledge of the sort that can't be conveyed within a political speech. Art is actually crucial. Art is at the forefront of social change. Art, artists allow us to grasp what we cannot yet understand. So if you think about civil rights movement of the 60s, right? And how much music and art were at the center of that movement. And if you look to any social movement, this is true. What Angela Davis is saying checks out. And I mean, can't find a much more unassailable source around activism and the activist life than her. Another Buddhist teacher once said, if you want to change society, you actually have to change the culture. And if you want to change the culture, you got to change the art. And then obviously wellness is important. At some point in our lives, we have to start doing the things that we know we ought to be doing. Drinking water, eating broccoli, moving our bodies, breathing, meditating, and what have you. Start in a manageable place with those. One small change a day, one extra glass of water, 5 minutes of moving, 5 minutes of breathing and meditation. These sorts of changes really do add up. So start somewhere with that. We need you hydrated right now. We need you well meditated right now. And able bodies need to be fit right now, quite frankly. And I'm not saying this as some sort of fat phobic or body conscious, body dysmorphic kind of thing. I just mean there are those of us who are going to need to put our bodies on the line, and there we are going to need able bodies to be strong enough to um, show up for those with disabilities as well in this. I think that that is a wise move. So I don't know what to do about the concrete stuff. I do know that as of today, it looks like Project 2025 is going to become a reality. And we must recall that their mandate is to put all the building blocks in place within the first 60 days of Trump's administration. And I can't remember the exact number of months, but I think it's within a year, the whole thing set in place. So take a breath with that. Take a breath with that. And there are many good people out there. that are making lists online of things that you ought to get taken care of before Trump takes seat in office. Get your passport renewed. Get it renewed, so that it's good through at least the next 4 or 5 years. Right? Stock up on birth control. If not for you, then for your friends. Men and people who have penises, get a vasectomy. I'm looking into that myself right now. They're reversible. They're not affordable, but maybe you can rely on your community members to help you with that because they want to end procreational sex, which is absolutely a healthy human true need, quite frankly. And you and I, we cannot afford to put, if you sleep with women, we cannot afford to put women in the position of maybe carrying a child as a result, no matter how careful we are. Mistakes happen. So that is one respectful thing that anybody in a male sexed body can do to do our part. Right? With that, I will just say there's much more. There's much more in terms of concrete action, but I just want to urge us all to actually listen to women right now. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to women who have just come under attack. I mean, people are out there trolling online saying your body, my choice out there. And the outright misogyny, outright rape culture is so amplified right now. And so li men, everyone, listen to the women in your life right now. Listen to the women in your life. Listen to the black people in your life and that you're connected to in social media spheres. Let their stories and narratives, take center. Those who live on the margins, who have been cast out to the margins of society, we need to place their stories and their experiences at center for guidance on how to act right now. We also need to be listening to indigenous wisdom and the wisdom cultures that have been around for millennia, who have all taught that open-heartedness, frankly, is the way, and to be with the earth, stay connected to the earth as a source of medicine, of healing, of well-being. We need to listen to trans people and to queer people right now. And what do they need? And how are they living? We need to protect these folks. I think that I am most nervous for trans folks and migrants. I'm nervous for houseless folks and drug addicts as well, but we're talking about four categories of the most despised populations in our society before all of this happened. And these folks are the ones who have targets on their back right now. So we've got to listen to these folks, be willing to show up and link arms with these folks and protect these folks. And again, I'm convinced that unless we are taking this action, we will not feel okay. Your very sense of well-being, your very sense of being able to wake up in the morning respecting yourself, look yourself in the mirror, relies on this. There's more, but let's close here. Thank you so much for being with me. You can return to my channel anytime for meditations, for different resources, and I'll be posting lots more. See you soon.